All right, you degenerates. Let's cut the crap and dive right into this shitstorm with ChristineLee and Daniel Wilkes and the security service.
Cats.
It's like Joe Rogan meets law school, but with more swearing and less talk about DMT.
I'm not really up on my Joe Rogan.
Oh, come on, you've never listened to Joe Rogan?
They're not really my cup of tea.
So fair enough. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. This whole mess revolves around the Investigatory Powers Tribunal, the IPT, for you simpletons. And their latest ruling has everyone losing their minds. We've got ChristineLee, this hotshot immigration lawyer, publicly shamed as a goddamn Chinese agent meddling in UK politics. Is she some kind of Bond villain or just a solicitor who likes to play hardball?
Here's the thing about ChristineLee. She's not just any lawyer. This woman has been a major player for years, founded her own firm back in '94, became a solicitor in '02, and even built a whole network of offices in China. We're talking serious connections, not just legal, but deep within the British-Chinese community.
Damn, this lady was building an empire. So what was she running, mahjong nights and dim sum diplomacy?
Not quite. She was up to her eyeballs in organizations pushing for political participation, even helped set up a bloody parliamentary group.
Wait, hold up, a parliamentary group. This lady was playing 4D chess while the rest of us were struggling with checkers. So what exactly did the security service accuse her of in this interference alert? What dirt are they trying to pin on her?
Well, they slapped her with this IA, basically a public warning, saying she was in cahoots with the United Front Work Department of the Chinese Communist Party. They're calling her a puppet master, trying to manipulate UK politics for China's benefit, funneling donations from foreign nationals, the whole 9 yards.
Shit, so they're basically calling her a spy. That's some heavy shit. Did she deny all this, or did she lawyer up and shut her mouth?
Oh, she denied everything vehemently, called it complete bullshit. But here's the kicker. The IPT didn't actually rule on whether she was guilty or not. They just focused on whether the security service had the legal authority to issue the IA in the first place, and if their assessment of Lee as a threat was reasonable given what they knew.
Wait, what? So they drag her name through the mud with these crazy accusations and then just shrug and say, we don't know if she actually did it. What kind of fucked up justice is that?
The IPT wasn't there to determine her guilt or innocence. They were looking at the legality of the IA, not whether Lee was actually a Chinese agent or whatever. They did acknowledge, though, that this whole ordeal screwed up Lee's personal life.
So they admit they fucked her over, but they're saying it was legal to fuck her over. This is some serious bullshit.
Well, the IPT considered all the arguments, including Lee's human rights claims, particularly her right to privacy. But they ultimately said the government's interest in protecting national security trumped those concerns.
So basically, national security is the ultimate trump card, and individual rights can get fucked.
It's a bit more complicated than that, but in this case, yeah, the IPT sided with the government. They said the security service had enough justification to issue the IA, even if it wasn't a full-blown court case.
So the government can just accuse anyone of being a foreign agent and ruin their lives without proving a damn thing. What the hell's going on here? This is some scary shit.
It's definitely a controversial case. The IPT's decision basically says the government can issue these alerts when they see a threat, even if they don't have enough evidence to actually charge someone with a crime. It's a tricky balancing act between protecting the country and protecting individual rights.
Yeah, it's a fucking mess. So where does ChristineLee's son, Daniel Wilkes, fit into all of this? What do they do to the poor bastard?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Daniel was working for a member of parliament who wouldn't, it was receiving donations from his mother's firm. Talk about bad timing, right?
Yeah, no shit. What happened to him? Did they drag him in for questioning, waterboard him, make him sing God Save the Queen?
Nothing quite that dramatic, but they did suspend his security clearance, and he eventually resigned. The IPT looked at his case too, but they didn't find that the security service directly violated his rights.
So the son gets caught in the crossfire, loses his job, and the IPT basically says, tough luck. This whole thing stinks of a cover-up. What the hell is really going on here? We're just supposed to blindly trust the government?
It definitely raises a lot of questions.
No shit. We'll have to dive into all that in part 2. For now, let's all take a breather and try to process this clusterfuck.
So we've seen that the government can basically point the finger at anyone they think is a threat and issue one of these interference alerts.
Yeah, and we all know what happens when you start throwing around accusations without any real proof. It's a slippery slope to a full-blown witch hunt. Look at what happened during the Red Scare with McCarthyism. People were losing their jobs and their reputations over the flimsiest accusations. We're going down that same fucked up road again.
It's a legitimate concern. This case definitely brings up some uncomfortable parallels to those dark times in history. But it's important to remember that the IPT's ruling, while siding with the government in this instance, also emphasizes the need for proportionality and a rational basis for these assessments.
Okay, so they're not just handing out IAs like candy on Halloween. But how can we be sure they're not abusing this power? How do we know they're not targeting people based on their political beliefs or some other bullshit reason?
Well, the IPT is supposed to act as a check on the government's power. They're responsible for making sure the security service is following the rules and not overstepping their boundaries.
But they already sided with the government as a case, didn't they? It seems like they're just rubber stamping whatever these spooks want to do.
It's not that straightforward. Remember, the IPT's role was to decide if the IA was legal, not to judge Christine Lee's guilt or innocence. They're not a trial court. Their focus is on making sure the security service operates within the legal framework.
Okay, so let's say I'm just an average Joe minding my own business and suddenly I get hit with one of these IAs. What the fuck do I do? Do I need to hire a lawyer and fight back, or do I just lay low and hope it all blows over?
If you find yourself in that situation, getting legal advice is definitely a good idea. The IPT ruling stresses the importance of challenging these alerts through the proper channels. Remember, an IA isn't a conviction. It's an alert, a warning meant to flag potential risks.
Yeah, but my reputation is already shot, thanks to this public accusation. Even if I'm eventually cleared, the damage is already done. It's like a goddamn scarlet letter that I can never get rid of.
That's a fair point. The public nature of these IAs does raise serious concerns about reputational damage, even if the accusations are eventually proven to be baseless. It's a complicated issue with no simple solutions.
So what about Christine Lee? What happens to her now? Can she sue the government for defamation or something?
Well, she hasn't been charged with any crimes, so it's unlikely she could win a defamation case. The IA, although damaging, isn't a criminal conviction. It's more of a public assessment by the security service.
So she's just stuck with this cloud of suspicion hanging over her head.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. What about her son Daniel? They basically destroyed his career. Can he sue for wrongful dismissal or something?
He did file a case against his former employer for unfair dismissal, and it was eventually settled.
So he got a nice payout and can just move on with his life. Not a bad deal, considering.
It's not that simple. Money can't erase the damage to his reputation and the missed opportunities he's faced. Plus, who wants to hire someone who's been publicly linked to a potential Chinese agent? He's going to be carrying this baggage for a long time.
This whole situation is a goddamn tragedy. Christine Lee's life is ruined. Her son's career is in the shitter. And the IPT is basically giving the government a free pass to do this to anyone they want. What the hell is the point of having rights if they can be trampled on like this?
It's a sobering reminder that even in a democracy, there are limits to individual freedoms, especially when national security is involved.
Yeah, and it seems like those limits are getting blurrier by the day. This whole thing makes me wonder if we're sleepwalking into a surveillance state, where anyone can be targeted based on vague suspicions and secret evidence.
That's a question we'll have to explore further in Part 3. We'll look at the wider implications of this case and what it means for the future of privacy and freedom in this country.
Okay, you conspiracy nuts. Let's wrap up this deep dive into the whole Christine Lee shit show. We've talked about the accusations, the IPT's head-scratching ruling, and the fallout for Lee and her son. The big question is, what does this whole mess mean for the rest of us? Are we all just one wrong step away from getting slapped with an IA and having our lives turned upside down?
Well, it's understandable to be a bit freaked out after a case like this. It definitely raises some red flags about the government's power and how they're using it. This whole thing feels like a slippery slope to a surveillance state where Big Brother's watching our every move, just waiting to pounce if we step out of line.
Exactly. It's like some Orwellian nightmare where they can accuse you of being a traitor without having to prove a damn thing in court. What happened to due process? What happened to innocent until proven guilty? It feels like we're trading our freedoms for a false sense of security.
It's a delicate balance for sure. The security service has a responsibility to protect national security. And they do operate in a world of shadows and secrets that we don't always see. But that doesn't mean they should have free rein to do whatever they want. There needs to be oversight, accountability, and some goddamn transparency.
Okay, but how do we make sure that happens? The IPT is supposed to be the watchdog, making sure the intelligence agencies don't go rogue. But they seem pretty cozy with the government. They rubber-stamped this IA without even considering whether Lee was actually guilty of anything. What's the point of having a watchdog if it's just going to roll over and play dead?
Well, the IPT's role is limited. They're not there to determine guilt or innocence. Their focus is on the legality of the IA itself, whether the security service acted within the law when they issued it. And in this case, they decided that yes, they did.
But that's bullshit. They ruined Lee's life based on vague accusations and secret evidence that she couldn't even challenge. How is that fair? How is that justice?
It's definitely a tough pill to swallow. This case highlights the tension between protecting national security and safeguarding individual rights. And it's a debate that's been going on for centuries. Where do you draw the line? When do you sacrifice individual freedoms for the sake of collective security? There are no easy answers.
So what can we do? Are we just supposed to sit here and wait for the government to come knocking on our doors? Should we start wearing tinfoil hats and communicating in code?
I wouldn't recommend the tinfoil hats, though they might make a fashion statement. But seriously, the best defense against government overreach is awareness and engagement. Understand your rights, be mindful of your online activity, and be wary of sharing sensitive information with people you don't know or trust.
So basically, don't be a dumbass online. Don't post your deepest, darkest secrets on Facebook.
Exactly. And if you're involved in any political activities or organizations, especially those with international ties, be extra careful about transparency. Make sure all your dealings are above board and documented. The last thing you want is to give the security service any reason to raise an eyebrow.
Okay, so be smart, be aware, and don't give the government any ammo to use against you. Got it. Anything else? Should we be writing our congressmen, protesting in the streets, stockpiling canned goods in the basement?
I wouldn't go that far, but supporting organizations that advocate for privacy rights and government accountability is always a good idea. A strong civil society is crucial to keeping those in power in check.
All right, folks, there you have it. The ChristineLee case is a wake-up call. It shows us that even in a supposedly free society, the government has vast powers that can be used against individuals without much oversight or accountability. It's up to us to stay informed, stay vigilant, and fight like hell to protect our rights and freedoms.
Well said.
And on that note, you magnificent bastards, we're wrapping up this deep dive.
Yeah.
Stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay the hell away from anyone wearing a tinfoil hat. We'll be back next time with another mind-bending case that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about the world. Until then, peace out.